America still wants to defund the police. The shooting of Rashad Brooks, unarmed turned armed suspect, is gaining traction, and everything is still racist in America. I'm your host, Talking Face, and this could be news. Hello, everybody. I hope you're having a great day, great Father's Day. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers. We decided to lengthen the time of this could be news so I can get all the good stuff out. You know, things like the Democrats wearing Kentish Scars, showing their support for Black Lives Matter. Even though, if this was a right-wing situation, people would be saying that this is cultural appropriation. But the funny thing about these scars, where somebody pointed it out in a tweet and was fact-checked, was these scars were worn by the Asante tribe, who actually participated in the slave trade with America. Go figure. Democrats and racism go full circle. I'm sorry, I like this one video of Nancy Pelosi not being able to get up. And then more racism, because everybody said that Donald Trump was racist when he announced that he was going to hold his rally in Tulsa, Oklahoma on June 19th. He moved it to Saturday, so it's not a big deal anymore. The big story in the country is on defunding the police. That is the number one subject on everybody's newscast. Because everyone sees that police brutality is getting a little out of hand. Not to the extreme where they say that police are hunting black boys, but police brutality is a situation that we need to address. But I don't really think the same way that Democratic politicians think, because you have examples like Ilhan Omar, who says things like this.
I will never co-sign on funding a police department that continues to brutalize us. And I will never stop saying, not only do we need to disinvest in police, but we need to completely dismantle the Minneapolis Police Department.
We know getting rid of the police is not a good thing, because in today's society, that when bad ideas are spoken about, we actually see examples of them currently going on as bad ideas are being spewed. Think about it. When everybody was talking about socialism being a great thing, which was during the Bernie Sanders campaign as recent as that, we had the travesty in Venezuela going on, where people were eating zoo animals. So we learned that that was a bad idea. Now with the bad idea of getting rid of police, we have Chaz. And if you do not know what Chaz is an acronym that stands for Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone. And that's out in Seattle, Washington. Pretty much on the outskirts of the city, where anarchists have taken over and created their own city, which takes up around like 8 blocks. But the funny thing about them in this whole situation is that they built a wall. The same people who are saying that the wall on the southern border is racist, they knew for a fact in order to have their own sanctuary city or own country to call their own, they had to build a wall. A couple of leftist politicians did not think that this was a big deal. A city where the people run themselves, that was taken over by anarchists. But it's not a big deal. Yes, so what that they're armed and they're patrolling themselves and they're setting up checkpoints. It's not a big deal. It's one big love fest, so some politicians exclaim.
I know it will shock you that the president is perhaps not giving an accurate or truthful picture. We've got 4 blocks in Seattle that you just saw pictures of that is more like a block party atmosphere. It's not an armed takeover. It's not a military junta. We will make sure that we can restore this, but we have block parties and the like in this part of Seattle all the time. It's known for that. He totally does not understand what is happening in America, and he is desperately trying to start the old fights and the old divisions that put him in power in the first place.
How long do you think Seattle in those few blocks looks like this?
I don't know. We could have the summer of love.
And at the same time, the chief of police has a different perspective of what's going on.
911 response times have tripled in the area. They've gone from just over 5 minutes to about 18 minutes. Rapes, robberies, and all sorts of violent acts have been occurring in the area that we're not able to get to. So it is not right for us not to be able to deploy our officers here.
Now, I don't know about you, but anytime the word rape is used, I'm kind of throwing up a couple red flags, and I believe that we should probably stop that from happening because rape is bad. I don't think I should have to explain that. Not to mention that this has been going on for a while, and now people are being shot, and they're not able to receive the care that they need in time. And the victims of these shootings are being taken to facilities outside of Chaz because everybody in Chaz is a bunch of grown kids and they cannot take care of themselves, and they're ran by a YouTube rapper. So go figure who'd have thought that that wouldn't work out in the best interest of the people that are staying there. Then we have in Atlanta with the shooting of Rashad Brooks. Now, a lot of people have examined the video, and it can be clearly seen that at the beginning of this whole interaction with the police, that it was pretty cordial. And honestly, by law, Rashad Brooks was in the wrong at the beginning because he was intoxicated at the beginning of the stop being parked in the drive-thru of a Wendy's. The same Wendy's that Antifa members, I'm just going to say she was Antifa because she was a white lady that actually burnt down this Wendy's after Rashad Brooks was killed because Wendy's did it. But in the first 20-25 minutes of the video, it was clear that both sides were actually respectful, and then as soon as the police officer wanted to arrest him, the struggle ensued. 2 officers were taken down to the ground by this one man, which is kind of crazy. Doesn't make sense. Officers probably need to do a little better hand-to-hand combat training. Like, you should be able to take down a perp by yourself. That's just me, though. But they tussled on the ground. Rashad Brooks spiked one officer's head on the ground. He actually had a concussion and took another officer's taser. And when he took this officer's taser, he began to run, actually aimed the taser and tried to discharge it at the officers. And then one officer fired 3 shots, 2 striking him in the back. 2 striking Rashad Brooks in the back. Rashad Brooks lost his life, and that is just a tragedy. But he did the things that would more than likely get you shot by an officer. 1 is fighting with them. 2 is taking their weapon. And 3, trying to discharge their weapon at them. You can't do that. Those are bad things to do. The officer who actually did the shooting was fired, and the officer who was given a concussion was put on leave immediately after. And then the mayor of Atlanta, Keisha Bottoms, I believe, she came out and had this to say.
While there may be debate as to whether this was an appropriate use of deadly force, I firmly believe that there is a clear distinction between what you can do and what you should do. I do not believe that this was a justified use of deadly force and have called for the immediate termination of the officer.
I don't even know what that means. It feels like a dog whistle, honestly. I know everybody always talks about Donald Trump doing dog whistles, but this is one of those dog whistles, and it makes no sense to me. But these officers, the officer who did the shooting, has been charged with felony murder by DA Paul Wood. Fulton County DA Paul Howard Jr. This was kind of quick because, it was a couple days after that he was charged with murder, and he had to turn himself in. Paul had this to say on the charges towards the officer.
At the time Mr. Brooks was shot, that he did not pose an immediate threat of death or serious physical injury to the officer or officers.
So, The officers were not in any danger, any life-threatening danger or anything like that. Okay, because a taser is not a deadly weapon. Alright, but, excuse me, sir, didn't you say this a couple of weeks ago?
Charged with aggravated assault of Ms. Pilgrim, and this is for pointing a taser at Mrs. Pilgrim. And as many of you all know, under Georgia law, a taser is considered as a deadly weapon under Georgia law.
Now, me personally, I believe that he's doing this because he's running a tight race right now and he's trying to keep his job. And also, he's kind of under investigation for, I think, campaign funds or something like that. And he has sexual allegation charges. So he's going through a lot right now and he's trying to fight for his life. But that's still a miscarriage of justice, because this is not to get justice for Rayshard Brooks. This is just to appease the mob that is growing more and more each day in this country under the political party of Black Lives Matter. There's no reason for this officer to be facing felony murder. One, because in order to get a felony murder charge, you have to be in the commission of a felony. Being a police officer and doing your job is not a felony. And two, this is not like the George Floyd situation where everyone, including police officers, knew that the killing was unjustified. Officers looking at this case will tell you that it was a clean shoot. Some would say that he probably could have did other things, but it was still a clean shoot. And these charges won't hold up in court. It won't get past the grand jury, which will make everyone upset who are protesting right now. And we need to talk to these prosecutors who are overcharging these officers, because you're not doing anything but getting these charges thrown out. I don't know if you're doing it on purpose, trying to help the police officers, or if you're doing it for some underlying conspiratorial reason. It doesn't matter. It's still wrong. And you need to charge these officers for the crimes that they have committed. But that's because everyone is focused on racism. They're focused on the fact that these are white officers and black suspects, perpetrators, or victims. Black officers kill white people. White officers kill white people. Black officers kill black people. But those aren't the stories that are in the headlines because of the simple fact that it doesn't feed into the narrative of racism. And now people believe that they can eradicate racism, get rid of it. It's now a war on racism. But how do you fight an invisible enemy? How do you fight a mind frame? I see people, stars doxing people on the internet, getting people fired, getting people kicked off of social media. But that's not doing anything but creating more racist. Even if the person wasn't racist, in that individual's mind, they lost their job because of some black people. You cannot get rid of racism. There are good people and there are bad people in this world. And you just have to learn how to distinguish between the two and make sure that you don't turn into a bad person and you stay away from those bad people. But saying that we're going to get rid of the police or defund the police, that's not helping any situation. Saying that you're going to try to close down businesses or get people fired from their job just because they don't think the same way that you do, or they have some type of prejudice, or even if they're racist, that's not fixing any situation. That's not fixing the problem. You're just creating more bitter people or making bitter people even more bitter. But it's a waste of time and it's a money grab, especially when I see that people are donating to Black Lives Matter, and I'm getting emails and text messages saying that I can vote to end structural racism, or I can donate to end racism. But I don't know where that's going to. And who is racism? And even when you talk about structural racism, all the structures and institutions in America are ran by Democrats. But all the black people are voting for Democrats. I just don't get it. It makes no sense to me. All I'm saying is, during this voting season, I hope that y'all do y'all research and y'all open your eyes to the real issues going on. Because the main problem that's affecting the black community is fatherless homes, black on black crime, abortion, things like that. But police brutality, the numbers aren't even that high. But that's just me. I'm your host, Talking Face. This could be news. Peace.